Hello, ladies, gentlemen, children of all ages. Although if you're a child of a certain age, you should not be listening to this show.
You absolutely should not be listening to this program if you are a child of like 25 or below.
Correct. I'm your host, Joe Fortunato, for the podcast, Blueshirt Bandwidth. Joined, can't say as always, a new guest. He hasn't been here 2 weeks in a row. He's back.
Yeah,
Eric Cohn. Eric, how are you?
I'm good. I've been up since like 4 o'clock this morning, and I flew to Washington, D.C., and I'm doing this from a hotel room, and I'm a little tired. But other than that, I'm good, and I'm here for the first time in what feels like a month and a half or something like that.
You've missed a lot.
Yeah.
You've missed a lot of things.
It's true.
So, good news, bad news. Good news, actually multiple good news, bad news. We continue, well, you know what? Let's get the housekeeping out of the way before we get into this. Episode number 94. This is the Gabe Perreault episode, an episode full of hope. An episode.
So there's one other Ranger
desire. Is there another Ranger that wore 94?
I was gonna say, before you just jumped into this, I know for certain that you're gonna get the obvious Gabe Perreault. I said I was going to be surprised. I thought I would be surprised if you didn't get both.
94. You know, it's like there. I know enough to know I should know this. When did they play for the Rangers?
2011. There's even a hint buried in that I didn't give you 2 years. So we're not even talking really a full season.
I don't know. This is... I'm stumped. Who is it?
Formerly of the Minnesota Wild. Enforcer.
You know, my head was at Bugard, but I didn't think it was Bugard.
It's Derek Bugard.
And I didn't want to bring the mood down with Bugard. R.I.P., by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, so... Okay. I'm not even saying this for the sake of me. I was thinking Bugard, but then I couldn't remember, and if I was wrong, I didn't want to bring him up. It's a sad story. But it's Bugard. So Derek Bugard signed a $1.65 million contract, I believe, with the Rangers in free agency. Scored a howitzer for, I believe, his only goal for the New York Rangers.
1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points in 22 games in the 2010-2011 season. Looks like all played in the calendar year 2011. So it is Gabe Perreault and it is Derek Bugard, who are our 294s. But yes, you're right. It is the Gabe Perreault episode. It is the optimistic.
We could also go
hopeful episode. It is the Joe, if I may. It is a guy who wears 94, who's somewhere between Nikita Kucherov and Matias Michelli. Somewhere in between the gulf there, that's where Gabe Perreault lies.
Before we get to Charlie, let's just talk about that. I am actually astounded. And there are a couple of guys who are somewhat prominent in the national NHL space from a media perspective who absolutely have anti-Rangers bias. Jay Fresh is admittedly one of them. And there are even limits to I believe he's a Penguins fan, so that makes sense.
He's a Penguins fan, yes.
But there are limits to his hatred. Like, he is one of our biggest allies in the Adam Fox wars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not expected from him. Corey Pronman is just not good at what he does. And I love the fact, it was Chris Peters and Scott Wheeler, right?
Yes.
That they just fucking ripped on him. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one of them, I think it might have been Scott, but I'm not sure, basically made the comment that, like, you can't see through your Gabe Perreault hate. Uh, Gabe Perreault had an objectively brilliant season last year on a horrendous New York Rangers team that really, he was like the source of offense. I'm looking up just his statistics here because I want to make sure that I get it right and I don't get Charlied. You know, so he played in 49 NHL games, really until the end of the year, jerked up and down the third line. 12 goals,
And between
15
the
assists,
AHL and the
27.
NHL.
Yeah, 27 points. Like, was taken off power play 1 at the end, 6 points in his last 10 games, and you're still guy can't skate, guy can't figure it out. Like, theoretically, this is the worst Gabe Perreault will ever be at the NHL level. And good on Scott and good on Chris for not taking his shit and pushing back on him. Just take the L. He had Gabe Perreault ranked as, like, what, his 135th ranked prospect or something a few years ago? Corey Pronman did?
Something like that.
You shouldn't be doing this. And it's a negative for Smiths that Corey Pronman likes him so much. That's how much I don't take him seriously in this space. A lot of it because of this Gabe Perreault stuff.
Yeah.
I would tell you that Scott Wheeler is as good of a prospect person as you are going to find. Will Gabe Perreault put up 100 points like Chris Peters said? I would love if that happened.
Well,
I don't necessarily think that will happen, but I would love if that happened.
I think it's interesting that you brought up Jay Fresh in that sense, too, because I thought he actually made a good point about the parameters of that conversation.
I was going to say this, too, but
right?
Go ahead. It's yours.
So his point about it is if you have any prospect, right, like Gabe Perreault, any significant prospect who is a forward, and you're asking, are they going to be closer to Nikita Kucherov or Matias Maccelli? They're going to be closer to Matias Maccelli just because Nikita Kucherov is such an exceptional player. Like, I think, Joe, you would probably agree if Gabe Perreault was 50% of Nikita Kucherov, we'd be pretty happy, right? So
50% of Kucherov, let's just quantify that. 50% of Kucherov is a 70-point player.
Yeah, I'm not 50% in terms of like his output, but just like, as elite as you think he is.
Put it all together. If you take 50% of Kucherov, who is one of the elite players in the NHL, you're getting a 70-point player. I'd sign up for that for Gabe Perreault right now.
Yeah, so like in one sense, Pronman is making like the safe bet there, but it's also like a very ridiculous means of making a comparison because you could also take a much brighter prospect to make the kind of point that he's making. And look, fine, he doesn't like Gabe Perreault. He has his reasons for not liking Gabe Perreault. I agree with you. I think they're kind of stupid, and I think they're redolent of someone who does not always know what he is talking about when he is making these points. And there's a certain level, too, where I even have some mild sympathy that it's like you can't watch something about every single one of these people and do the deep dive that would be necessary to have just a fully rounded opinion. So you're doing some based on numbers. We do some stuff based on numbers, too. But at this point in time, to look at Gabe Perreault, as we have watched him, and I think watched him with the suspicion that us as Ranger fans often have, where it's like, you tell me if you think I'm wrong about this. I don't have the luxury, I feel, as a Rangers fan of watching prospects when they come up to the team with a sense of excitement. I watch them more with a sense of dread in that they're just not going to be the guy that I hope they're going to be, that I'm told that they're going to be. Gabe Perreault has looked like the guy who it was promised he was going to be. And the rudimentary analysis of he's not a great skater, ergo he's not going to be a great NHL player. Like that's another one of these things that like if you guess Matias Maccelli more often than you guess Nikita Kucherov, you're going to be right about players because the way that the average Hughes is going to be close to Maccelli. If you're going to guess that poorer skaters are going to be poorer NHL players, on average, you're probably going to be right. That's not true of all of them. And it's not true of players that have the hockey sense, the IQ that Gabe Perreault clearly does. So
Can I
I thought the whole thing to me again was just kind of hilarious and kind of silly. And it, to your point, was an example of why I like Scott Wheeler is because he had the sanest take of those two. One of those two takes, Peters, is an aspirational one and a like beyond stretch goal aspirational one. I would love it, of course, if Gabe Perreault became the second coming of Nikita Kucherov. But the Matthias Michelli invocation is just preposterous on Pronman's part and a reason that I don't take him terribly seriously. And Scott chiming in to be like, I think he's going to be like a 70-point guy. And that's a not a super bold prediction, but it's a bolder prediction than Michelli, and it's a saner prediction than Michelli.
I think you're being a little too nice to Pronman, and I'm gonna go in on him just a touch more. I fully understand not being fully versed in all prospects. That part I fully agree with. When Gabe Perreault came into the draft, he set the record in 22-23 for the U.S. National Team Development Program in points with 132 in 63 games. Now, there were two players that played on his line that went before him in the draft in Will Smith and Ryan Leonard, and that's fine. Scott Wheeler has been sticking his neck out for Gabe Perreault. He's our biggest ally in the Gabe Perreault war. He's welcome to my dinner table anytime, Scott Wheeler. Perreault is not like a team going rogue and drafting somebody really high, and then you're making like a stretch opinion on someone that you weren't expecting to talk about at that point. He was someone you probably should have had cursory knowledge with. And to have him ranked so far out of the realm, like, think about how many prospects there are in the NHL to have him 130 something that you have ahead of him. There's either a bias there or you have a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes a good hockey.
Well, I think the fundamental misunderstanding part, and I'm entirely open to that there's just a bias there as well. There very well may be, and this may militate in that direction. But it strikes me more as like he has a very rigid rubric of what he thinks makes a good prospect. And if they don't check some certain boxes, well, then they're just not going to be a good prospect. Where you need to do a little bit of dynamic scoring with these players. So yes, he is not the greatest skater out there, but does he have other qualities that make up for that fact, right? You know, one of the other things that has happened in the last week since you and Chip recorded is that Jason Robertson has signed a 1-year deal with the Dallas Stars. Jason Robertson is not a great skater. In fact, that was, in the JFresh summary of the contract and the player that was signing that contract that I read, one of the things that was noted is how he is not a great skater, but he understands that he's not a great skater and knows where to position himself on the ice, especially when he doesn't have puck, with that knowledge in mind. So it strikes me, and again, maybe I am being just too generous to Pronman here, that he's just a very rigid rubric for analyzing these things. And if it doesn't check certain boxes, well, then there's no way that player can be good. And it probably necessitates a little more dynamic scoring than we're getting from.
I'm really happy with the way things are shaping up from a forward perspective, that the Rangers are still kind of hunting for somebody right now, and there's an opportunity for these guys to sort of get their runway still. I don't think we're going to see Gabe Perreault being boxed out the way we saw him towards the end of the year. That's a good thing for the Rangers in general. That's a good thing for Gabe Perreault in general. So, like, those pieces I think matter. But you should be excited about Gabe Perreault. I agree with you. I also, watch with dread because I'm terrified and I don't know how this is going to play out. Whatever, but not for Gabe Perreault. Gabe Perreault, I also watch with dread, but much more hope. Anyway, vote for Gabe Perreault. That's what I want to say. $85 a year, BlueshirtBanter.com. All your ad-free access to the New York Rangers. You can read tons of stories that we've written. Chip has been covering for the items to consider. We have some articles going up as we kind of move towards the regular season. We'll have review previews. We'll have lots of thoughts on what's going on. I think I'm going to do a summer musings piece for my article on Friday, just to go over some of the things that we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks on the podcast. But you should join us there. If not, you can do $40 a year, get you access to our Discord tier. We have to figure out how to get the Discord a little bit more active. We own that of 100%. We'll talk to Roberto and see some things we can do for next year. With that Discord tier, though, and above, you can ask any question you want in the question thread that Eric puts up every single week. Eric, is there an opening question? So let's add one other thing. We're going to do the opening question if there is one. Eric's going to read the Ombudsman report. We're going to talk for a super hot second about Schneider because he signed between when Chip and I recorded and when it went live. And then you guys asked a shit ton of questions that we haven't even looked at yet. So it is Question City. So it's a good time for a mailbag. Dog days of summer. Eric, is there an opening question? There fucking better be. I don't make these commenters pay money to not ask opening questions.
Yeah. We have arrived at the point where we have 2 opening questions. So
wow,
people
okay.
really feeding into our need for the opening questions here. Yep. What I don't know if this is the better one to take first or second, so I'm just going to do it because it's the shortest. Opening question from Thielen Schnitty. I think I know where this is coming from. What do you consider a sport?
Okay. This was an enormous debate in college for me and my friend group. And I'm quantifying this on the fly, and I would like to state before I say this, because it's going to make a lot of people mad, I am not suggesting that if what I'm about to say means what you do is not a sport, that you are not an athlete. Okay? We all fair with this? We're all good with this? All right. My roommate's girlfriend at the time, they're no longer together, was a gymnast. Not a sport. You're an athlete. It's not a sport. In order to be a sport, it needs to be something that you would call an athlete. Badminton is not a sport, sorry. And you need to be competing against someone else, not a judge, another human being who is trying to do the same thing you're trying to do against you. That is my line in the sand for a sport. Are gymnasts athletes? A fucking 1,000,000%. Not even a question. But to me, gymnastics in general is not a sport. Golf, kind of a sport. They're athletes. They're competing against each other. Maybe not in the way that you would on like a soccer pitch or a hockey rink. But that's my designation. It's not perfect, but that's kind of where I look at things when I draw the line.
So I grew up in the St. Louis area, and we had a great sports talk host in the St. Louis area by the name of Kevin Slayton. And used to listen to Kevin Slayton's show, usually when I was in the car with my dad. It did lead to one fantastic episode where clearly someone put this poor girl up to doing this, where she called into Kevin Slayton's sports talk show and requested Blinded by the Lights by Manfred Mann. And he immediately said, why the hell would I do that? And engaged in a long conversation with this young woman named Tiffany, who I will confess, as he pointed out, sounded like she was smoking hot. And we found out in the course of this conversation that her GPA was like 0.7, and it made a lot of things make sense.
Sure.
So Kevin Slayton had a definition of what a sport is, and it is largely tracking with the definition that you gave. Kevin Slayton's is, it has to have 2 things to be a sport. It has to have a ball, and it has to have a defense. And there's an exception to that, which is, of course, the sport of hockey, in that those Canucks who came up with it were so dumb that they thought a puck was a ball. So we allow the exception there. but his two
Is that
rules were a
your
ball and a
interlude,
defense.
or is that what he says?
No, that is his.
That's his.
That
That they're
hockey is an
that
exception
dumb. Got it, because they're dumb.
because
Got it.
Canadians were so stupid that they thought a puck was a ball. So we allow it, and hockey is a sport under the Slayton definition of a sport.
That is my and when this happened in college, as you can imagine, my buddy's girlfriend was very displeased with my definition of this. I am not suggesting that you are not an athlete. You can be an athlete and not do a sport. But if we're talking about a sport, there needs to be someone going against you that is attempting to stop you from doing what you're doing, that is also trying to do the same thing you're doing. And you need to be an athlete.
Yeah.
Because, like,
all right,
badminton,
Opening question number 2 from our friend Cronus. And I like this one now that I've had a chance to read it.
Okay.
Opening question for either Eric or Chip. So this is not for you, Joe.
This is bullshit. Fuck you, Cronus.
If Joe gets his wish and becomes an oil oligarch, I think we all know he would become a supervillain. If so, which fictional character would be best to take him out along with his henchmen? The options that he gives are James Bond, Jason Bourne, Michael Weston, which I know Joe will have no idea who Michael Weston is. And Cronus, I just want to say Burn Notice was a phenomenal show. I loved that show. So a good pull there by you.
I've seen Burn Notice.
Really?
Yes. It's not a movie, right? It's a show about
it's
the
a TV
spy
show
that gets burned and has to survive.
Yep.
I've seen. To be fair, I did not watch it, but I have seen numerous episodes.
Okay.
Like, it was background TV for me a lot.
It was a really fun show in that it filled the need that I had, the void that was left by 24 going off the air, which is, I'll add Jack Bauer into our options here as well. I was a huge fan of the show 24, but it also had just like a fun sensibility to it. And it included Bruce Campbell. And Bruce Campbell is always fun in everything he's in because Bruce Campbell plays Bruce Campbell playing a character. Like, there are a couple of actors like that don't play characters. They play themselves playing a character. So they're kind of always the same in everything, but they're also great and fun in everything. Bruce Campbell is one of those guys. So I'll finish the question here from Cronus. On the previous podcast, Chip talked about, this is an actual hockey question. So, okay, we'll move back to that later. I thought that was a continuation. It's not James Bond. I'm not sending James Bond after you. Jason Bourne, the clarification we have to make here is, like, are we sending the original Jason Bourne, who was an asset and just like a pure machine assassin, or the Jason Bourne who's gone rogue? Because I'm not sending a rogue guy after you in that sense. I don't want to have to try to persuade him that, you are the architect of Blackbriar and we need to have him come and take you out. I'm sending Jack Bauer. That's my answer.
May I make a comment here?
You may. I'll allow it.
Not that I'm too good of a person to become an evil villain. I am far too lazy to become an evil villain. If I have the money, like, if I become the oil oligarch I want to be, I'll be on a beach somewhere. Like, you're not going to see me. I don't have time for henchmen. I need henchmen? What are you, crazy? I have my own problems. So no, I will not be an evil villain. But not because I'm not an evil villain, because I just don't have the time to be bothered with it, if that makes sense. So
sounds like a lot of work, and that's not up your
It does
alley.
sound like a lot of work. Like, why? Why do I? Why? What am I? I have money. What am I doing? Like, the Joker wanted to destroy Gotham. That's why when he got the money, he didn't give a shit. He was using the money to buy cheap things like gasoline and bombs, and then he fucking did whatever he wanted to do. That's not me. I'm okay. I'll be on a beach somewhere. I'll buy some property, and I'm good to go. No worries. Thank you for playing.
Because you brought up the Joker, I feel compelled to ask you, are you going to see The Odyssey?
So I have learned about the Odyssey from really a lot of the tweets that are going around right now. I got to be honest with you, Eric. I have no fucking idea what's happening. I don't know why people are mad. I have seen a couple of screenshots of some of the casting decisions. Christopher Nolan, I was not familiar with your game, so I may have to see it.
If you can find it, especially in IMAX, I don't know if you have a 70 millimeter IMAX near you, but if you don't,
I
see
would
it in
never
IMAX.
know that.
It is one of just the most incredible immersive film experiences that I think I've ever seen. The fact that he shot it entirely in IMAX film, it really is an incredible accomplishment in movie making. And I think people probably who have listened to the show know that I am a pretty big Chris Nolan fan. But yeah, it was the adaptations that he, of course, had to make to a 2,400-year-old story in order to make it a screenplay. I actually think that some of the very dumb complaining online that has gone on was even more stupid in once you actually see the movie. So I encourage everyone to go see it, and mostly because it's one of the foundational texts of Western civilization, and it really is a stunning work of movie making and deserves to be seen in a theater. So go find it in IMAX and watch it, Joe.
Yeah, what I will say is, I like I said, I don't fully understand like what all the blowback is for. I think
Yeah.
I told this story once before. I texted Greg Kaplan because I know he's a big movie guy because I watched one battle after another on a plane,
Yeah.
and all he said to me was, "So you watched it on that small screen?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then he didn't speak to me about it again. So I'm assuming that I like violated his beliefs
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form. But that being said, if I find the time, I will find. I don't even know if there's an IMAX near me, but
Yeah.
if I find the time, I'll find the time.
I don't know what Greg's opinion of the movie was, but I am in support of Greg for his reply and then lack of further replies to you on that. But that movie was terrible. I
Well, see, I think he really liked
really
that movie. I liked the movie.
I
I thought the movie was fine. What's the problem with
I
it? Because you
hated it.
hated everyone? Because you hate people? What am I supposed to do with that information?
Well, I don't really care for, and this is my problem with Scorsese's Gangs of New York as well. I don't like films where I hate every single character in it and want them all to die. Perhaps if I get my wish, which I kind of did at the end of Gangs of New York, and that pretty much everybody dies, it gets a little better. But I thought it was farcical in an unintended way. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Want to get ombudsman?
Yeah, let's get ombudsman, and then we'll do questions.
The podcast Ombudsman Report for Blueshirt Bandwidth episode 93, where, of course, each week Charlie will listen to the podcast and correct the record on anything that Joe, and in this case, Chip, got wrong, starting with the Ombudsman Report. After the cut-in, Joe said that Charlie probably disparaged him. To be clear, Charlie mostly disparaged Chip in last week's report. Defensive logjam. Despite the fact that Braden Schneider had not yet inked his one-year deal to avoid arbitration at the time that the podcast was recorded, much of the discussion was centered around the plethora of third-pair defensemen that the Rangers have. When discussing Scott Morrow's poor defense and inability to crack the lineup, it was mentioned that if Morrow could play defense even a little, he'd be in the lineup, but instead, it's more like Zach Jones. Jones did not play in the NHL at all last season, but looking back over the past two seasons, Morrow has been the worst defensively among Schneider, Jones, and himself, according to Evolving Hockey. Chip suggested that if the Rangers are forced to keep Morrow on the roster to avoid losing him for nothing, he, quote, will be stapled to the Adam Clendenning Memorial Press Box. Clendenning spent the 2016-17 season with the Rangers and played in only 31 games, being healthy scratched 51 times that season. Finally, Chip said of the logjam that there are, quote, too many left shot defensemen. Morrow, Vincent Iorio, Schneider are all right shot defensemen, while Drew Fortescue, Albert Smits, Robertson, and Vakanainen are left shots, giving the Rangers a fairly even split among potential third pairing defensemen. Schneider to the Sharks. When discussing possible landing spots for Braden Schneider this offseason, Joe said that, quote, Mike Greer would have been better off with Schneider than Nurse at full price or Jacob Trouba. While, as previously discussed, Nurse is a middle-of-the-pack defenseman with too large of a cap hit, Trouba projects to be worse than Schneider and is 7 years older. Arbitration. When discussing the prospects of Braden Schneider going to arbitration, Chip pointed out that there are instances where players come out of it feeling really bad about the team due to the adversarial nature of the proceedings. The most notorious arbitration case occurred during the summer of 1997.
Well, I know this.
While the New York Rangers were attempting to pry away Joe Sakic from the Avalanche, noted footwear enthusiast Mike Milbury went to court in an attempt to save $350,000 off Tommy Salo's contract. Milbury laid out evidence that Salo was the worst conditioned athlete on the team, blaming him for allowing late goals that cost the Islanders many games during the 1996-97 season. Salo was left in tears. Salo remained with the Islanders as their starting goalie for another season and a half. While $350,000 doesn't seem like a lot in today's NHL, it was actually the net worth of the Islanders owner at one point in the late 90s. That's a great reference. Salo might be better known for another breakdown 5 years later during the 2002 Winter Olympics. I sure hope that Sweden was able to find a better goalie in time for the 2006 games. And finally, Nikolai Zherdev. Both Joe and Chip were adamant that Nikolai Zherdev was actually good and that it was a mistake to walk away from his arbitration award. The numbers back them up. HockeyStats.com has Zherdev with an 89% WAR as an 89% WAR player in the summer of 2009, and Evolving Hockey had Zherdev as the Rangers' third best forward by xGAR over 60 that season. The arbitration award that the Rangers walked away from was $3.9 million, which was higher than the $3.2 million that the Rangers had offered. That $3.9 million would have been 6.8% of the cap, which would be equivalent to $7.15 million today. Chip commented that, quote, up until last year, Zherdev was still playing. While Zherdev has had a lengthy career in Russia and Austria, he last played in the 2021-22 season. Joe remembers Zherdev scoring a last-second goal against the Penguins. On October 25th, 2008, Zherdev scored with 8 seconds left to send the game to overtime, where, Joe, do you remember who scored the winning goal?
I do not know who scored the winning goal.
Where Fredrik Sjöström
It wasn't
would
Zherdev, I can tell you that.
Sjöström would score the only goal in the shootout to give the Rangers the win. And that concludes the Ombudsman.
All right. Very, very, very quickly. Braden Schneider signed a 1-year, I believe, $5.5 million deal to avoid arbitration. This got a ridiculous amount of play from Rangers fans. And I don't know why. Because you're getting a 1-year deal out of him anyway, right? Through arbitration. That's happening. So I don't know why we're freaking out about this. But is the money expensive? Yes. Would you have preferred to pay Braden Schneider that much money long term? No. Are the Rangers paying him that much money long term? No. This contract very much feels like a contract extension to make Braden Schneider easier to move down the line. If he blows the Rangers away and does amazing things and is all of a sudden this different player now that we have more support and whatever it may be, he gels under Mike Sullivan, good for him, great. You could figure that out down the line. I believe he's still a restricted free agent, correct? For a year after this?
Correct.
Why are we freaking out over... you know my rule. You're not allowed to freak out over 1-year deals unless the player that's coming in is actively going to take away a spot from a kid and is terrible. I will allow you to make the argument that Braden Schneider is terrible. That's fine. Totally cool. Who's he stopping from making the team? Morrow? Maybe. Smits? Maybe. I don't think so, though. So what are we doing? Do you understand any of this outrage, Eric? I'm not talking
Yes.
about being like, ugh. I'm talking about the outrage.
Outrage is a little much. I understand the frustration on two fronts. I understand it just on the raw dollar amount that Braden Schneider, based on his performance, even at a 1-year deal, does not seem to merit $5.5 million of the salary cap. I think that that is a perfectly reasonable argument and one
We
that
have money.
on the merits, yes, but just because you have the money doesn't mean that it's money well spent. And when you have a limited system like the salary cap system is, then you need to be judicious with the way that you spend that money. And there's just
Even on a 1-year
nothing.
deal?
Yeah,
Like
to could it
that's
potentially
more my
limit the
point.
possibilities of what the Rangers may want to do later in the season if they can't move that 1-year deal? You know,
I mean, I get. I understand that. I just don't think it's worth this
again,
level of like
outrage, no, but I completely understand looking at it and going, Braden Schneider does not merit $5.5 million, even if it is a 1-year deal. That is just too much money to be paying to a guy who is a third pairing defenseman and not a particularly great third pairing defenseman. I think that's a reasonable perspective to hold. The bigger one that I understand is, and I think there's much more merit to this, is it still just doesn't indicate that the Rangers have any freaking clue what they want to do with him. If the idea was that they want to move him, there have been plenty of opportunities to move him. We're going to get into this, I think, in a little bit when we talk about Steve Yzerman. There were definitely deals to be had for Braden Schneider, but at that time, they decided they just did not want to move Braden Schneider. They probably could have moved him at a point where his value was much higher than it is right now. They did not choose to do that. A 1-year deal at $5.5 million, where if they're unable to move him or decide they don't want to move him, we're right back here again in another year having the exact same conversation. And I think it is perfectly reasonable to wonder exactly how much will have changed in that period of time. Like I don't think, to go, a little, Scott Peters here, or Chris Peters here. I don't think he's going to turn into Nick Lidstrom in the time between now and when he's going to need another RFA contract at this time next year. I don't think that's going to happen. So I think the frustration is just about I have no idea what the Rangers actually think of Braden Schneider. It is one of the players I am truly confounded as to what they actually think of him. Because as we've pointed out numerous times, what they say publicly and the way that they act are two different things when it comes to Braden Schneider. I understand part of that is PR. Part of that is what you say in public versus what you think privately. But these things still don't match up. They don't jive. They don't make sense together. And I think the frustration is less about my first point, in that you just don't think that he's worth $5.5 million. I agree with you, especially in a growing salary cap world, even this with the Rangers, where the Rangers are right now. It's not the end of the world to have him signed to a 1-year deal for $5.5 million, even if objectively speaking, it's too much money. It is the contract and the whole thing that led up to it as an indication that I don't think they have any freaking clue what they want to do with him at this point. That's why I think people are frustrated.
Yeah, but and I don't disagree with you, but let me ask a question off the back of that. What is the alternative to what they did? Like you've signed him to a 1-year deal. I am fully 100% with you that just because you have $100 in your pocket to go food shopping doesn't mean you should spend $40 on eggs, although these days you may not have a choice. I am fully with you that you want to make sure that the salary cap is as flexible as possible, especially for a team like the Rangers that need to make sure that they are in a position to make moves because they're very clearly not done making all the moves that they want to make and getting to be as good as they want to be. I'm there with you. I'm there for all of that. This is a 1-year deal that makes Braden Schneider easier to trade. I think if there was a trade out there for him, he would have been gone. Now, I think that in a
Can I
really
pause you
weird
right there?
way,
I want to pause you right there.
you can
Why does
pause it.
signing him
Yep,
to
pause
a
it.
1-year, $5.5 million deal make him easier to trade than being a RFA with 2 seasons left on restricted free agency status, trading him to a team that can then sign him to whatever deal they want to sign him to?
Because they can basically sign him to that deal now. And the alternative is that you're getting a guy that's arbitration eligible that filed for arbitration. That
Yeah,
I don't even know if you can trade. Can you trade a player once they filed for arbitration?
I think you can't. I'm not certain on that, so
I'm not
we'll get
certain about that
Charlie
either.
on that.
I just think that if you're the Rangers, you've now signed Braden Schneider to a contract that I think you and I agree is an overpay.
Yes.
I'm not sure if the NHL agrees. Maybe they do. I have no clue. But he signed and has another year of team control. And I don't mean the year he signed. I mean, he's still a restricted free agent at the end
Yeah,
of the year.
next season.
That matters in this instance.
Yeah,
Now you
I
have him under
agree.
contract. You're not worried about it anymore. And if you can't trade him, well, that's a different story. Now you have a different
Well, yeah,
conversation that you're going to have.
yes. So I think
I
think
agree with you. It's
again,
not ideal, to be clear. I'm just saying, like, there are people who are literally losing their shit on Twitter. Why?
yeah. Well,
Why
it's
is this
Twitter
making
because
you that
people.
angry?
It's Twitter, so people performatively lose their shit because that's what they do. I mean, people were raging about The Odyssey and telling me that it wasn't going to be one of the highest grossing films of the year because they're stupid, right? So whatever. Um, I think the frustration is what is going to change between now and when you move him? Like, are they going to seriously give him? Are they going to give him run on the third pair? Are they going to give him run on the second pair? Do you think that his performance is going to improve sufficiently as to elevate his trade value? I think there's an argument that it's not worth crying over spilt milk in the sense, even though, again, we're going to visit this in a moment here about Steve Yzerman. But the problem is that he should have been traded long ago. That's the problem. And what they're doing now is managing a depreciating asset in a way that doesn't seem to make all that much sense. Because I guess I will accept your premise that this 1-year, $5.5 million contract makes him easier to trade, even though I don't necessarily know that I agree with that. I think the desire is just to see this thing finally settled. Like, if you really do believe the things you've been saying about Braden Schneider publicly for the last couple of years, then his value is, I don't think it was going to increase dramatically. And it's at a low point right now. If you really believe in that player, sign him to like a 4 or 5 year contract at $5.5 million a year. I wouldn't like that, but at least you're with the the escalating salary cap. That's not going to be a major deal. I just don't think that they have faith in him. I don't think they really believe he's as good as they've been saying that they think he is public. I think it's too much money on its face. Again, I would not love a $5 over $5.5 million deal, but in some sense, I would understand it because at least it would demonstrate a commitment on their part that we think this player is a good player who is going to be part of our future. It is the way that they have managed the situation up until now, and is the way that we still don't know what they actually think of the guy. And I guess at the end of the day, I just don't know that I accept the 1-year deal makes him easier to trade. Maybe it does. I think he would be just as easy to trade if you back up a month and a half before arbitration filing happens, when he is coming up on 2 years of restricted free agency, and then trading him to a team that can work out whatever contract that they think is fair with him. I understand frustration. I agree that losing your mind about it is not necessary. It's not that big of a deal, but I am somewhat confounded by the whole situation and wish that it would just be over, to be perfectly frank.
So I don't disagree with any of that. Let me give you the case, though, for this. You're the New York Rangers. you are trying to signal to the league that you respect, really like, and think that Braden Schneider is awesome. Braden Schneider is about to go through arbitration with you. Is it not better to signal to the league that you don't want to go through arbitration with him? You want to sign him and not walk through all the reasons why he sucks. And yeah, maybe overpay for him a little bit because you really like the player.
So do this. So do this before he files for arbitration. If that's what you actually think, then you didn't need to let him file for arbitration. Which again, I think all militates in the direction of my point, which is they don't know what they want to do with him.
You and I agree on that. I'm saying that once it got to the point where he filed for arbitration, because again, I think the Rangers were trying to trade him, quite frankly. Drury was like, all right, let's sign him to a contract and whatever. That's all this is. There is actually an argument to be made, a semi-compelling one, that if the Rangers actually try with Braden Schneider, they may at least see if there's something more here. He's playing for the the defenseman whisperer and Mike Sullivan. The Rangers really haven't given him that great of a shake. He's played with some pretty shitty partners. There's also compelling evidence that Urho Vakanainen got better when he was away from Braden Schneider. So, like, that's not good either. But
let me ask you a question then.
Go ahead.
Do you think Braden Schneider, before he filed for arbitration, if the Rangers put 1 year, $5.5 million in front of him, do you think he would have accepted that?
No, he would have wanted more term.
Okay.
He took the arbitration deal because he doesn't have a choice. He's getting a 1-year deal regardless. That would be my bet. I don't know. Maybe he would have taken a 1 year 5.5, and then it's stupid that the Rangers let him go to arbitration. But
yeah, I guess my point of pushback on what you just said is you're starting it from once it got to arbitration, then this makes sense. My point is they didn't need to let it get to that, and they chose to let it get to that.
I don't know. I don't know. There's no way Braden Schneider would have taken a 1 year, $5.5 million deal. And I would honestly bet the Rangers didn't even offer him $5.5 million.
Then that's fine. Then that's fine if he wouldn't have taken 1 over 5.5 pre-arbitration. Then they should have fucking traded him. Like, they should have traded him a year ago. They should have traded him 2 years ago. They should have traded him 3 years ago. They should have traded him when his value was actually. If we can literally start this conversation wherever we want to start it about Braden Schneider, then the errors are being compounded from a long time ago.
Yeah, sure. I agree. I agree with all of that. This 1 year deal to me just screams, get him under contract. Let's not make this a headache, and we will see what we can do with him. I don't think
I agree
the
with it
Rangers
from
know
that
what they're
starting
do with
point.
Him. Yeah,
that's my problem. Right? That's my problem, is that they don't know what they want to do with him. And at this point, if they don't know what they want to do with him, that is a failing of the Rangers.
That is also fine and totally good. Like, I'm there with you for all of that argument. Seriously, I agree with you. I'm not sure there was a deal on the table that the Rangers really liked, because if I think there was, they would have taken him. We've talked about how the Rangers have way too many defensemen. I'm going to make a pretty good bet that once Chris Drury got Pettersson and Durzi, he was pretty fucking sure he was trading Schneider. Nothing materialized. Drury just came off a huge PR win by getting a better deal by Vincent Trocheck for waiting it out. Now, to the thing that you're really complaining about, which I agree with, which is, guess what? You've now invested in this player, even if just for a year. You have to do right by him. Otherwise, that is absolutely a waste of an asset. We will see what the Rangers choose to do with him. But that's now an issue. You're 100% correct that this problem could have been solved a year ago. The Rangers elected not to, and now we're here. That's on them fully.
Yeah. I think, again, we can move off this, and I think we should actually get to the Yzerman part of it because it dovetails out of this.
Well, it's Yzerman and it's Guerin.
Yeah, it's Yzerman and it's Guerin. You're correct. I agree with you directionally, and again, it just depends on when we're starting the clock of analysis on this. So, once you got to arbitration and all of that, I think everything has suggested to me for a couple of years now that the Rangers don't really believe in Braden Schneider. And I have to think that there was an opportunity somewhere in the last couple of seasons to move Braden Schneider when his value was higher. Like, I just don't believe that there were no plausible trades for Braden Schneider over the course of, let's say, the last 3 seasons or even the last 2 seasons. I think there had to be something out there that you would have looked at and gone, yeah, okay, sure, fine. It's the fact that they let it get to this point that I think is what's frustrating people. And I think that's completely reasonable, even if some of the freak out is completely
Fair. Go ahead. What do you want to do with Yzerman and Guerin?
Well, certainly since we last talked, but since you and Chip last talked as well, so we found out that Steve Yzerman is clearly getting forced out of the role of president and general manager. He's becoming an advisor to owner Chris Ilitch, which is the face-saving way of firing a franchise icon who you made your president and GM, because it has not been working for Steve Yzerman. The Yzer plan has not been good. And what you said before we started recording here, I think is absolutely correct, which is his failure was not making moves when he had the opportunity to do so. And I think in this case, that's similar to the indictment that I'm laying at the feet of Chris Drury when it comes to Braden Schneider, is not making moves with Braden Schneider when he had the opportunity to do so. It's a hard game to play, right? Like, I want to acknowledge that knowing, you don't want to move too early. You don't want to move too late. You're always trying to make the move at just the right time. And it's really hard to know when exactly the right time is. But the constant problem with Yzerman, as we've talked about before, was his refusal to make moves when he had the opportunity to do so to improve the team. I listened to the really freaking long 32 Final Thoughts podcast, and one of the more revelatory things in there that Friedman shared was that one of the things that Yzerman really doesn't like is how soon these young players get paid a lot of money. That's bad. That you have a GM that is that out of touch with the modern day NHL. It screams of a guy who's like, well, it wasn't like that when I played. And it was like, you played in the freaking 1990s, buddy. A lot has changed in the National Hockey League since that point in time. And it's Yzerman's unwillingness to adapt to it that ultimately spelled his fate here. So I know you have more to unpack about Yzerman and Guerin in particular about that, but I think I wanted to bring it up specifically here because I think, again, all the people who have said that Chris Drury is the worst general manager in the National Hockey League, I give to you Steve Yzerman and his head on a silver platter, which the Red Wings clearly did because they're trying to salvage a situation with their captain, Dylan Larkin, who wanted out because of Yzerman's refusal to make those kinds of moves. I think that is a reality. And I think that's what the frustration, again, back to the Schneider thing is it's a little too Yzerman-ish of not making the moves at the point when you should have made them.
I think the point that I want to make in this is not necessarily an Yzerman piece or, it's more a Guerin piece where Bill Guerin had a trade on the table for Vincent Trocheck. And he elected to not make that trade because he thought that he could wait Chris Drury out, get a better offer from Chris Drury, or give a weaker offer to Chris Drury, I guess, in this instance, and be happily ever after. Chris Drury waited him out at the end of the trade deadline, did not trade Vincent Trocheck. Vincent Trocheck became back on the market after the Rangers and the playoffs were over. And Dylan Larkin became available. Bill Guerin went to Dylan Larkin, no longer wanted to have a conversation about Vincent Trocheck. And now with Yzerman's firing, kind of seems like Bill Guerin or Dylan Larkin might be staying in Detroit. And now Bill Guerin walks away with nothing. And this is why, to the point that Eric has made, and I've made this point as well, the real sins for Chris Drury here are the things he has not done. Bill Guerin had an opportunity to play a hand. He elected not to. He waited. That hand is no longer available. That play is done. There's nothing left. And now he's left scratching and clawing his way through a team that I don't think looks like a contender in any way, shape, or form that is going to beat Colorado or even Vegas or whatever. Because he held back and didn't do what he had an opportunity to do. He's the GM of the year last year, LOL. He won a gold medal with Team USA. Good for him. Nobody can take those things from him. I don't think you should be particularly comfortable with him as your general manager if you're a Minnesota Wild fan. I don't know how you are not beside yourself that you guys got embarrassed in not being able to kill penalties, not being able to score goals, needing some defensive. You had a guy that you could have gotten. I'm not telling you that Vincent Trocheck is God's gift to centers. I promise you he's not. But for an organization that needed the support in this way, Bill Guerin overplayed his hand, and Minnesota's worse for it. So when deals are on the table, and, Eric, this might even be a point to you about Schneider, that maybe there were deals on the table that Chris Drury did not take, and now he's here. This is why you make the deals when you make the deals. There may have been people that were floating around Pavel Dorofeyev with Vegas and then didn't get an opportunity to get him because Chris Drury got him. When there are deals on the table, take the deals. As long as they're comfortable. I'm not telling you to take like a pennies on the dollar deal. Chris Drury very clearly made the right decision by not trading Vincent Trocheck at the trade deadline. Then guess what happened? There was a trade available for Vincent Trocheck. And he didn't wait for Bill Guerin. He made the trade with Utah, and it was a great trade. And now Bill Guerin is looking around like the Will Smith meme in the last episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where he's like alone in the living room, the empty living room. There's no one left for him. So sometimes it is really important to understand where you sit, what hand you're playing, and what you can theoretically do and not do, and what risks are worth it and what risks are not worth it. And Chris Drury made the right call, and Bill Guerin did not. And now I think it's a totally different situation here. So
I would say one more thing on this, and then let's get to questions. And that is the job that these guys do. And, we sit here and we do armchair criticism of them. And, that's what we've chosen to do. That they're open and fair for that criticism. I think in some senses it is a much harder job than a lot of people out there who look at, Chris Drury and say, well, I could do better than that. It is a harder job than they estimate, because as your point goes here is that you don't want to, you have a player who's an asset. And if you move them too early, then you might not be getting the maximum value that you could get for that player if you waited a little bit longer. But if you wait too long, then you're over the peak of the maximum value and it starts to decline back down again. And what it made me think of is, the kind of guy who's great with that. I'm going to give you a quote, Joe, and I know you're going to recognize where this one is from, okay? Where this movie quote is from. Let me tell you something, Mr. Sullivan. Do you care to know why I'm in this chair with you at all? I mean, why I earn the big bucks. I'm here for one reason and one reason alone. I'm here to guess what the music might do a week, a month, a year from now. That's it. Nothing more. And standing here tonight, I'm afraid that I don't hear a thing.
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Silence.
Or a golden retriever.
That is Jeremy Irons' John Tulled in Margin Call, a fantastic movie. But that is a lot of what these general managers are asked to do, is to predict what the market is going to look like a day, a week, a month, a year from now. So I'll even express some sympathy for, Drury after just kind of castigating him for the Schneider situation, that, these things are hard to get perfectly right. I agree with, the point that you were, the stop that you were giving to me a little earlier, that there probably very much was a deal at some point that Chris Drury should have said yes to for Braden Schneider, to not let it get to this point. But similar to your Guerin point, right? Like there were definitely things that he should have said yes to that he didn't say yes to because he thought he could be a hard ass and a hard liner and get Chris Drury to cave. There's a dynamic scoring thing to this, and it's more complicated than we're often give it credit for. But nonetheless, those guys at the end of the day are evaluated on that scale. Did they accurately guess what the music was going to do a day, a week, a month, a year from now? And in Yzerman's case, clearly he did not. And in Bill Guerin's case, clearly he did not. And in Chris Drury's case, with regard to Braden Schneider in particular, clearly he did not.
But he did for Trocheck, which was the big one. So,
again,
yeah.
you won't get them all right.
Let's get to questions.
Okay. All right. We'll start with JD, the GM. Eric and Joe, you have 12 teammates on the BSB team. Give us your line combinations.
12 teammates on the BSB team.
We have 12 writers, I think is what he's saying. 12 people on the staff page.
I don't even think I can remember all 12 people that write for the site, to be honest with you. In like actual ice hockey?
Yeah.
I don't know who can play and who can't. I don't know who can skate and who can't. I should definitely be one of the last picks made. Let's do it this way. I bet Chris is good at hockey.
Mm-hmm. He played.
Keegan's probably good at hockey. Chip sucks at hockey and any sport.
And life.
And life. And just his existence. Yeah, I don't. Is Drew good at hockey? Maybe.
Yeah, could be. I don't know.
Drew could be good at hockey. Are you good at hockey? I think you could be.
I played inline. I was a goalie.
So maybe.
So what we've learned is that I don't know that Joe even knows all of the people who write for Blueshirt Banter. That's really what I'm getting out of this. Yeah, not important.
It doesn't matter to anybody.
JD, I apologize for the lack of a great answer here, but I think I'll give you this in that I think without a doubt the player that I like, if I had to pick one player to send out there, right? Just one, I think it would be Chris. I think Chris strikes me as like,
yeah, I agree.
He seems like he'd be the guy. So shout out to Chris. All right. Feelin' Schnitty. Would you rather marry Chip's fictional sister or be a Flyers fan?
I mean, apparently Chip's fictional sister is super hot. According to Chip, she's a 10. So
is she
not my sister?
Is she a normal 10 or is she a Sammy Blay 10?
She's a 10. So I think that answers that question.
Okay.
You have to answer the question.
I will be honest with you. It has been a really busy couple of weeks, and I had absolutely no idea what the sister thing was about.
You still don't know what it's about?
I've picked up on it, although I have not listened to the episode.
You should listen to it because I'm so aghast at what he's saying that I actually I have to stop the show to understand what he's saying. Basically,
okay.
Chip is talking about how, I don't remember what specific player we were talking about, but it was like, don't invoke things, right? Like, you don't have to go out there and maybe we were talking about the offer sheets. And he was like, if your sister's a 10, you're telling your boys not to date your sister. But if she's a 2, you're not saying anything to them. And I was like, sorry, I need to understand this. You're ranking how hot your sister is in order to figure out whether or not you're telling your friends that they can date her or not. And then he went into this whole bit about how he doesn't have a sister and blah, 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 blah. But it's all bullshit. He's ranking how hot his sister is. So that was what it was from. And I expected AI to fucking obliterate him, and it did not. AI allowed him to get away
on that one.
Scot-free,
yeah.
So
you just should have asked him if this sister that he imagines often gets stuck under coffee tables or in dryers.
Yeah. So
That would have
again,
been, yeah.
according to Chip, his sister's a 10. So
Okay.
who would you
All
rather
right.
date? I think it's a fair question, but I don't want to be a Flyers fan. Fuck the Flyers.
Chip is asking the next question. Perfect segue.
Yeah, perfect segue.
Do you think my sister is hot? No. Does
That would be
Yzerman
fucking
being
amazing. Oh my God.
Does Yzerman being shit canned improve Detroit's chances of keeping Larkin? I mean, it has to
100%.
improve their chances of keeping Larkin. That's the whole reason the move was made.
I agree. And if you're Yzerman, like, this has to fucking suck for you, because you made shit so untenable that ownership was like, you're fired because we're not losing Dylan Larkin because you suck at your job. Now, a good owner will take a step back and be like, I wonder how I impacted this. Like, maybe I let things get too far. Yeah, for sure. But that sucks for Yzerman. And he's still got to be there, and he'll take the paycheck, and by all means, he's fine. But, like, oof. And again, I go back to this. I will continue to say this. I would have done anything to get Yzerman to be the general manager of the Rangers when he was on Tampa Bay. Things are not always as they seem, as they say. Next question.
Also from Chip. Should the Rangers sign Patrick Laine?
The Rangers need more shooters. They don't need slow players, though. They don't need injury-prone players. Like, I'm much more for Patrick Kane than I am for Patrick Laine.
Yes, I would agree with that. And I think the advantage of, the Laine, the appeal of the Laine argument is the Rangers are looking, of course, to be better this season. They're looking to hopefully get into a playoff spot this season, but it's not we're looking to contend this season. So it could be the kind of year that you take a chance on a guy like that who has shown a goal-scoring prowess, but as you noted, has not been able to stay healthy. And you can get him on a deal that is heavily bonus-laden and incentivized around how much he actually plays. And if it turns out that he gets hurt, as he traditionally has, you can stash him on LTIR and you can recoup the cap space. So take out of the equation Patrick Kane for a moment. Say like Kane re-ups on a, feel-good, friendly deal in Chicago. Do you take a flyer on Patrick Laine for those reasons?
I'll take a one-year deal for anyone at this point that's, like, somewhat valuable.
Even
I think
Braden Schneider.
Yeah, even Braden Schneider. I think having a trigger man, another trigger man with Dorofeyev, is a good thing to have. Where I draw the line, though, is if Patrick Laine comes, he cannot take out opportunities from other players like Gabe Perreault. So that's my takeaway.
Yeah, I would take I agree with you. I would rather bring back Patrick Kane and have some fun in that direction than sign a guy who's probably going to spend most of the year on the injured list. But in the absence of the opportunity to bring back Kane, sure, take a flyer on it. See what the hell happens. Maybe he turns back into the guy who pots a crap ton of goals, and that would be really fun.
Chip has loved the idea of Laine for a while. Again, I'm not against it necessarily. I just don't necessarily think it helps the Rangers in a way that they need help right now.
Yeah, sure. I think it's fair. All right. Richter 1994 asks, who suffers more? Rangers fans, Jets fans, or Mets fans?
I mean, Jets fans are number one.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Not even close. Then it's probably Mets fans, to be honest with you.
Yes.
Am I right in understanding that the Mets are not going to make the playoffs again this year?
Not only are they not going to make the playoffs, they are an abomination.
They're an abomination. Interesting.
They're bad. They're very bad. Like comically bad.
Well, then.
The Mets, as of this conversation, are 43-60 a .417 winning percentage and 16 and a half games back of the Atlanta Braves in the National League East, in the basement behind a Washington Nationals team that also nobody really expected to be very good. The Mets are.
Oof.
Yeah. But part of this is, of course, just championship droughts, and it's 1986 for the Mets, and it's the Pleistocene era for the New York Jets, and that the answer is, of course, the New York Jets.
It's the Jets. There's no
Yeah.
way it can't be the Jets.
Yeah. I also appreciated Argentina deciding to, since they were playing at MetLife, honor the New York Jets by looking like the most incompetent professional football team they possibly could in that championship game. Thought that was
No
fun.
shots through 90 minutes. Like, if I have as many shots on net as you do from my couch, something's wrong.
And you and your couch don't have Lionel Messi.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Another one from JD the GM. Eric and Joe. Kartye. What are the odds that he makes this team out of camp? And if so, why? In parentheses, all I see is an undrafted player that, after 2.5 seasons on a bad Seattle team, had no value and was wet.
I don't even think it's a question that he's going to make the team.
I think he's
out
on
of
the
camp.
third line.
Yeah, and he was really good for the Rangers last year. Like, I think you're underplaying how impactful he can be. And just because he's bad on another team does not mean he's necessarily going to be bad on the Rangers, and he wasn't bad on the Rangers. So,
yeah, 14 points in 24 games with the Rangers. Showed some speed, as Chip points out here. There's a little back and forth between the two of them. Speed, physicality, all while making $1.25 million as a valuable bottom six player. And JD's point back was, 8 points, 3 goals, 5 assists in 40 games for Seattle during the 25-26 season, and then was a consistent, healthy scratch for multiple weeks. I think Joe's point here is the salient one, which is that a player can be not so great with one team and go to another opportunity and go to a different coach or a different system or different circumstances, get a chance to start over, not carry the baggage with him, have a coach who maybe believes and invests in him a little bit more. I think Kartye looked good in his time with the Rangers. That is what the Rangers are evaluating him on now. And they had other things they were evaluating on when they decided that they were going to go ahead and put in a waiver claim there. So for as often as we complain about the Rangers like whiffing, as we talked about the fear of watching prospects with the Rangers, this looks like a smart waiver claim. If he reverts back, here's the great part about it, JD. If he reverts back to being the Seattle player, this is a team that currently has Taylor Radish. It also has Hemelish. It also has Sikora. It has plenty of other guys in Hartford who are capable of playing third or fourth line minutes. If he regresses to the Seattle mean, then drop him, jettison him, healthy scratch him. But I think based on his performance with the Rangers in 24 games last year, absolutely he's starting the year. He's starting it on the third.
There was a statistic that somebody pointed out that his points and hits projection, like from the time when he was on the Rangers, so it's not a full 82-game season, but it's projecting against an 82-game season, that like maybe 3 players had ever done that before. Again, I'm not suggesting that he's going to be Kucherov.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that the guy is, I think, a valuable player for the Rangers right now, and let's see where things go. I don't know why he would absolutely not be somebody that I would be down on in any way right now.
I agree. He may not be Kucherov, but, he might be Matias Michelli. Just saying.
Closer to Matias Michelli than Kucherov.
I agree with that one. Yes, 100%. From Chip. Are they on the opening night roster or not? Gut feeling. All right. Ready? Taylor Radish.
No.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Do you think they're going to trade him?
I don't know what they're going to do with him. I don't know why he needs to be here.
I agree that I don't know why he needs to be here, but I think given his service time in the NHL, if he is here until they move him, they're going to play him. I don't think they're going to stash him in the press box or put him on waivers. I think they're going to play him. So I think I think he is going to be on the opening night roster. I don't think he'll finish the year with the Rangers, though.
Okay.
Matt Rempe. Yeah, he's in Hartford. Yaroslav Hamelish.
Yes.
I'm going to go no on Hamelish.
Oh, interesting.
Because I'm going to go yes on the next one, and that's Adam Sikora.
Would love both of them to be on the team. I think Hamelish is on the team before Sikora is, if you had to pick between the two of them.
I think Sikora
and that's not a me choice.
Hamelish.
That's not me telling you that like this is what I think should happen. I would also have Sikora before Hamelish. I think the Rangers really like Hamelish's size, and
sure.
I'd have both of them make the team. This is why I have Radish as a no, by the way, because both of them make the team. And if I'm building the team out, that is my fourth line.
Yeah, that's not the question we're being asked, right? It's like gut feeling of are they going to be on the opening night roster or not? Not do you want them to be?
Yeah, I think Sikora and Hamelish showed enough that I do think they're going to get serious play here.
Yeah, I think
put it that way.
I think one of them is going to, and I think the other is going to be in Hartford to start the year. And I think Radish is going to be on the fourth line to start the year. So between the two of them, I'm going with Sikora, but I could also agree. I could see it being Hamelish. It's one of the two, I think, but I don't think it's both. Alberts Smits.
Everything Chris Drury has told us is no. My gut is telling me yes. I think he's going to impress enough to make the team out of camp. Now, I'm going to hedge this a little bit and cheat. I do think if he makes the team out of camp, the Rangers have a problem. Because now you have Braden Schneider. You got to figure out what to do with him. I know Chip would move. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. Schneider up to the second pair with Dursey and then move Pettersson back with Smits. Maybe you do that. I have no idea. I've already come to the just realization or the acceptance that Scott Morrow is not going to be on this team. Maybe Matthew Robertson becomes your seventh defenseman, whatever. If I do think Smits is going to impress and be one of the best six defensemen in camp. Mostly because outside of the top four, it wouldn't be a huge, insane jump for Smits to be better than Robertson and Schneider and Morrow and Fortescue. Whether or not he makes the team, I don't know. He's waiver exempt, obviously. I don't think he can play in the AHL, though, which is the interesting piece here. So the Rangers are probably not going to want him to go overseas if they don't need him to go overseas. I have a really funny feeling he does make the team out of camp. So to not cheat, I'm going to say yes.
If you're correct that he can't go to the AHL, and I don't know that that's the case, and I don't
think he can.
I don't think that's right. I don't know. We'll get Charlied on this.
Look it up, or you can
look it up while we're doing it. So if he either has to make the team or go to Europe, then I think the answer is that he's going to make the team. If he can go to the AHL,
Google AI is telling me I'm wrong, by the way. I thought I had seen that he
think
can,
you're
but
wrong.
They're saying he can absolutely. Not only are they saying he can, they're saying he can absolutely. So fuck you,
yeah,
Google
I don't know why
AI.
he wouldn't be able to.
So
I don't know why he wouldn't be able to. So if he can start the year in the AHL, I think because they have added so much on the blue line, I think it changed even like from the day of the draft to now. The dynamics have changed so much that I think it's more likely than not that he starts the year in the AHL. And I think he will play before the end of the season, but I don't think he's on the opening night roster. And that's because the last one we have here is Braden Schneider, and I think the answer is yes, he is on the opening night roster. I would have a hard time at this point not seeing him on the opening night roster.
So things outside of him being traded, obviously, the level of fucked the Rangers are going to be from an asset management perspective with him if he doesn't make the team out of camp is
100%
on a level that you can freak out about. Like that would be
much
absolutely, yeah, he can literally shit on the ice for real. And he's making the team out of camp.
He could Jacob Trouba on the ice
He could
And
Jacob Trouba, Mike Sullivan on the ice, and like he's good. He's going to make the team. He's all right.
I agree with that. And to your point of, and you said unless he's traded, I don't know what trade is going to exist between now and opening night.
I agree. I don't
wouldn't
think so
have
either.
existed a month ago that they could have made that deal if they really wanted to.
Unless there's another change of scenery situation here that,
Maybe.
there's another team that thought they were going to get. I mean, listen, here's another
playing
piece
the
to
odds
this.
here, and I just think the odds are low.
I don't disagree with you. The Rangers are probably going to have to trade Scott Morrow or lose him for nothing in waivers. So other things are going to have to happen before the year ends.
Yeah.
Now, Chip is
I
right.
agree with
the
that.
Rangers
That's a
may
different circumstance.
Again, I'm just saying that like Drury is not sitting there thinking his day is done or his work is done. Let me put it that way. So maybe.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe.
Another fun one here from Chip. You can bring back one of these guys in his prime to the current Rangers team.
Okay.
Which one and why? All right. You ready for the list?
KKK. Yep.
Maybe don't put 3 Ks in together like that.
Okay. I used to have a guy, a professor at Quinnipiac who would go K, KKK every time you said something to him. So
Peter Nedved.
Okay.
Alex Kovalev.
Okay.
Mike Knuble.
Okay.
Mike York. Radek Dvorak. And Jan Lavic.
And this is in their prime on this New York Rangers team.
In their prime on this current team.
I don't think this is particularly hard.
I agree.
Kovalev is the best of those players. You take
100%.
Kovalev.
Yeah, it's Alex Kovalev.
Not even close. Is he the most like consistent of those players? Maybe not. I guess, fine, but he's too good. He's too much better than every other player on that list to not pick him.
Everybody always agreed, or at least people who covered that 94 team, that Alex Kovalev was the most talented player on that 94 Rangers team. Let's see what the best season of Alex Kovalev. So if we're saying in their prime,
he was a 100-point guy, I think, at one point.
He was never a 100-point guy. He was in 2000, 2001 with Pittsburgh, 44 goals, 51 assists, 95 points. Give me that guy.
Plus, he's Russian, so.
Right. Fit right in. Also from Chip, thoughts on the rumors that Brian Rust may be a target for the Rangers?
I did not see these rumors.
I don't think it makes sense at this point. Brian Rust.
I'm looking up how old he is because I don't know.
He's up.
He's 34.
He's been around there.
This is another one of those, like, do you take a guy for a win? Here's the problem. Rust had 65 points last year in 72 games. But he was playing with Crosby. Right. The Rangers don't have Crosby. So the thing that you have to remember is Sidney Crosby makes guys score goals. The Rangers need a guy who can feed the puck to Dorofeyev. Dorofeyev's not feeding the puck to anybody. And I cannot stress this enough. And I mean this only in the case of what the Rangers are dealing with right now, where they're like picking through the scrap heap.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather be worse with more kids on the roster that will be better long term than a little bit better with veterans on the roster that stop kids from getting actual roles.
Yeah. I think the cost of acquiring Rust is going to be more than I would
like why?
pay.
Why? I'm going to spend assets? Sign Kane or Laine for free.
Agreed. Yeah. It's nothing against the player, although I think you do have to wonder about the
Crosby thing's real.
The Crosby distortion. Although I do think Brian Rust is a good player.
I agree.
And certainly one that Mike Sullivan is familiar with. But it's going to cost assets to acquire that player, and I think you can get guys who are still available in free agency if you want to add another player in the middle six like that. I just don't think it makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Another from Chip.
So Chip is just 93 of these 60 questions.
Close to. Eric, as Joe has no sense of culture, DX or NWO and why? Also, top 5 divas from that era. Okay, so I want to be clear about something. My knowledge of professional wrestling is definitely limited. I watched some in the late 1990s in the heart of the Attitude Era, which was pretty phenomenal. Triple H, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin. That was a fun era to watch. I never really was a WCW guy, so I mean, my answer to this is DX almost by default. And I don't know that I can give you the top 5 divas of that era, but I will give you, to me, the undisputed number 1 is Trish Stratus. That's the answer for number 1. I can go in any other order of people I can remember, kind of, sort of, for 2 through 5, but Trish Stratus.
Okay, I don't know who any of these people are. So
I think you know who
some
The
of them
Rock
are,
is.
actually. I know who The Rock is. I know who Stone Cold Steve Austin is. I know.
Yeah. All right.
Chyna was a diva, correct?
Correct. Yes. R.I.P.
I didn't know she died. That's sad.
Yep. Way to bring it down again. Sean Avery's acting coach. I just want to make a point here.
Great name.
Sean Avery is in The Odyssey.
I heard about this.
Yes. This is, I think, the 3rd Nolan movie that he has been in. And arguably, I'm pretty sure he has more screen time than
I also saw
Zendaya
this.
does, and more screen time than Lupita Nyong'o, more screen time than at least one of the other major stars who are in the film. So go see it, if not only for Sean Avery. So Sean Avery's acting coach. Chicken or eggplant parm?
Chicken parm.
Yes.
What
Correct.
are we doing? I like eggplant parm, but what are we doing?
Eggplant parm is fine.
I had a very
Eggplant
inappropriate joke that I'm not going to make. It's chicken parm.
The answer is chicken parm, provided you don't turn it entirely into your personality like some hockey commentators. I think we've got one more. We have a last question here from Statesboro. Did we have another last? We got 2 end questions, just like we got 2 opening questions.
I like that.
Do you want to go with the Statesboro Blueshirt CT closer, or do you want to go with the 84 Jorts closer first?
84 Jorts has been on a heater, so let's take him last.
Statesboro Blueshirt CT, last question. I haven't looked at the schedule or given it much thought, but the wife and I would like to travel to a game or 2 and spend a long weekend in the city where the Rangers are playing. Any recommendations? Since it's a weekend, it's going to be East Coast.
I have a problem here. I've never seen a hockey game professionally outside of Madison Square Garden.
We're aware of this, and Chip and I are hatching some plans to.
Well, that would actually be fun. Well, listen, I did right by you guys, so I don't want to hear it.
Totally. But let's.
It would be awesome if your plan was like UBS or something.
Yeah,
or fucking Newark. We just go to Newark to watch a game.
Yeah, we're gonna go to Newark, New Jersey.
That would be the best. That would be the absolute best.
Beautiful Newark, New Jersey. So your car can get chopped while we watch the game.
Awesome.
So let's abstract it out then. So it's less of a question about like the arena, and I think what I'm getting here is they want to spend a long weekend in the city. So we're talking, what's an East Coast city that would be a good place to visit for a weekend if the Rangers were playing there, and that's part of the attraction.
Can I give not an East Coast city first? That's close enough.
Yeah.
Like, you should go to Chicago.
100%.
You should go to Chicago. It's an hour behind. It's not that big of a deal. The flight is super easy from New York. Go to Chicago. Chicago's an awesome city. You'll get to see the Blackhawks. Do Chicago.
It's a fun environment. Yeah.
It's a great, I've been to Chicago numerous times. I was in Chicago 2 weeks ago. The food is awesome. Like, it's great. Seriously, go to Chicago. Do Chicago.
Yeah. Joe's answer is the correct answer here. I guess I could I could probably come up with the just.
I want to answer his actual question.
All right, so I'm gonna agree with you on Chicago. The game environment at the United Center is incredible. It's a good place to see a hockey game. Seriously, Statesboro, if you choose Chicago, reach out. I lived there for 15 years. I have a whole bunch of really great places that are not just go to Giordano's. Giordano's is not even the best deep dish pizza. I have a ton of recommendations to give you. So the correct answer to this is Chicago. We'll answer the question that he actually asked now. So go ahead.
Fuck Carolina. Tampa, Florida, maybe. That's kind of where my head's at.
As much as I hate them.
Ooh, you're going to go Carolina.
Go to Boston.
Boston's not bad either. Right. Are we considering it, when he says East Coast, I'm assuming he's just talking about United States.
I'm going to guess if he's Statesboro Blueshirt CT.
Because Montreal would be a great place to go.
Yeah.
Montreal would be good. Montreal is a cool idea.
Here's the deal, Statesboro. For next week, if you want us to put some more parameters on this, can we include Ottawa or Montreal? Can we stretch a little further? Again, I'm not saying I would recommend it. I'm just saying, is it on the table for us?
You just want to know.
But I just want to know. But my assumption is if you live in Connecticut that you've probably been to Boston. So
where
do
the Panthers play?
Sunrise,
what city are
Florida.
They in?
Sunrise.
So
which is
by
45 minutes north of Miami. Also, I don't care for Miami.
But you're also not close enough to Miami, really, unless you go to Miami and then you're in Miami and
and you go up there just for the game and then you come back to Miami.
Honestly, from an East Coast perspective, Boston is not a bad choice. Florida, I guess, Tampa's probably not worth your time, to be honest with you. Maybe
Tampa's okay.
It's fine, but what do you are so much better off in Chicago. Much better
100%.
off in Chicago than any of these.
100%.
Nashville, I know it's a little bit further, but Nashville's also probably really cool.
Nashville is cool as a city. It is one of the most obnoxious places to see a hockey game.
Yeah, fine, but you're there for the long weekend with your wife. You're not really there for, the other pieces. That would be those are my two recommendations. Do Chicago. Forget the East Coast. Do Chicago. And then if you really want to stay, Montreal is probably worth your time too.
The answer is Chicago.
The answer is
84 jorts. End question. Carolina just proved that you can win the cup with a team of second and third liners and a second and third pair defensemen. Does this change the rhetoric about the Rangers or teams in general needing the guy? Let me go on this, and I'll unleash you.
That's fine, because I'm ready to go.
I sense that, because I actually want to tie it to something, a conversation that I was having about the Yankees. It doesn't, because what Carolina did here was they're there all the time, and it finally lined up for them in a way that led them past the barrier that they had been unable to clear previously, which was the Eastern Conference Final, got them into a Stanley Cup Final against a Vegas team that was just running out of gas. Things lined up. My frustration with the New York Yankees right now is that the New York Yankees are not a good enough team to win a World Series. And it was Charlie and I who were going back and forth on this. And his point was, Judge has been hurt. He's going to come back in September, and you want the Yankees to be in the mix because, the AL is bad. They're going to make the playoffs. And who knows if all the things just fall their way. I hate that philosophy. I really do, which is the philosophy of just be good enough to get to the playoffs and hope things play out in a way that is favorable to you. That's trying to be just good enough. It's not striving to try to win a championship.
It's what the Rangers did for a long time with Lundqvist.
Agreed. And it never led to a championship. So what I want the Yankees to do is I want them to go out and either make moves that are going to help put them in a position for people to say, this is a serious contender. This is a team with a very legitimate chance of winning a World Series. And if they're not that team this year, because in part their roster construction, I think, is faulty, because their bullpen is terrible and they knew it and they didn't address it, because their shortstop is garbage and they knew it and they continue to play him despite the fact that he is garbage. And when you add on top of that Aaron Judge is hurt, if you're unwilling to go out there and take some big swings to bring in, an infielder, one infielder, a shortstop to replace Volpe because he's terrible, maybe another starting pitcher, and definitely some bullpen help, then trade off some of the assets that you have. And I don't even know that I care that you missed the playoffs this year if the agenda is going to be trying to make the team into a legitimate contender and not just this philosophy of get to the playoffs and see what happens. I want them to actually strive to be a great team, not to just be like I think Carolina is, which is a good enough team that got lucky in their draws. So I don't think it changes anything about the sentiment about needing the guy, in that you definitely would rather have it. You can make some arguments about like the sum total of the parts being more than the individual pieces, but I don't think Carolina proved anything with this championship. Certainly not that it's a model that I would want to emulate.
No, I think I don't really understand any of the Yankees stuff that you said, but here, and I mean this somewhat disrespectfully. I want to make that clear. Carolina had the easiest walk through the playoffs the team has had, I think, ever.
One of them, for sure.
There's nothing to learn. Nothing. They won the Stanley Cup. Their names are on the cup. Their names will be on the cup forever. So will the family's names.
Yeah, so will kindergartner.
They're pieces of shit organization.
So
sure, we knew that. We've talked about that before. I don't know why people talk about Carolina like there's some actual really good culture, please, whatever. Can't take that away from them. I want to make that clear. Not taking that away from them, because I can't take it away from them. They had the luckiest run through the playoffs possible. They could not have gotten a better draw in each round. Vegas Golden Knights were the first real team they played, and they were so red scorching hot to get through the West that it just could not have been kept up in the Stanley Cup Finals, and it wasn't. So there's no lessons to be learned there. Zero. I think if you're a Rangers fan, which we all are, the point that Eric is making is the most important point, which is we already have years, decades of data that if you know you're not going to be good enough, hoping that everything goes right in the playoffs does not work out very often. Happened to work out for Carolina. Hit on blackjack with 20 or 19, 10 times and tell me how many times you win. That's what it comes down to. They drew an ace. Congratulations. Good for you. It happens. Awesome. Most teams don't. The Rangers did not for decades. Nothing to learn here. That's my takeaway.
Yeah. Yes. I think in an objective sense, especially if they had a harder road to the Stanley Cup final, I don't know that I would have said that I thought the Carolina Hurricanes were going to beat the Vegas Golden Knights. Again, things lined up for them. That's fantastic.
Yeah, good for them.
Again, I know you don't get the Yankees part of all of this, but like
But I understand
Yankees,
don't be a middling
point.
team. Yeah,
right.
Don't be a middling team. Go out and do.
My point there is just that, I didn't disagree with Charlie in the sense that I think the AL is sufficiently bad and the Yankees have a sufficient level of talent that if they made the playoffs, they very well could find themselves in a World Series. And the point there is you get to the final and who knows, maybe you do win 4 of the 7 games. I would love it. I certainly would buy the t-shirt and go to the parade if the Yankees won the World Series this year. But sitting back and looking at it, I think if the Yankees played the Dodgers in 10 7-game series, I think they maybe win 1, maybe 2. The Dodgers are
10
just
times. You'll probably lose 9. Not this one.
The Dodgers are just a better team.
Not
so
tonight.
I want them, same with the Rangers, same with the Yankees. I want them to strive to be the team that I look at the way I look at the Dodgers, or the way that we looked at the Florida Panthers of the last couple of years, where you go, that is the team to be beaten, not this is a team that could luck into a championship. That's not the way I want to go about it. I take it, but that's not the way I want to go.
Yeah, banners hang forever. We say this all the time. Keandre Miller's name will be on the Stanley Cup for eternity. Good for them. Good for him.
Happy for him.
There's no lesson to be learned there. 0.
Great. That's it.
That's it. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for joining. BlueshirtBanter.com, $85 a year gets you all your ad-free access to the New York Rangers. $40 a year gets you access to our Discord tier. You can ask questions, which many of you did today. Chip asked 43 of them. So congratulations. Eric, anything for the masses here?
Good to be back.
Eric is back. And now we're leaving. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for joining. We will see you next week. Bye for now. Eric's a whale.